Welcome to The Passion Pod with your host, Chris Johnson. Thanks for joining us. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy the feature presentation.
Season 4, Episode 2.
Welcome back, friends, for an episode about healing. Our guest today is a bit of an expert in the hemp and CBD world. Welcome the owner of Wonders of Nature, located on Barstow in downtown Eau Claire, Chris Buske. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
So good. I've actually never been in this location even before. This was Tangled Up in Here before?
Yep, and before that it was Sammy's Pizza.
Oh, okay. I guess I was in Sammy's Pizza like a long, long time ago.
Yeah, so it has a really good vibe here, just good energy, seems like.
Yeah. So hit me with a quick summary of because a lot of people probably don't know who you are who are listening to the show at the moment anyways. Hit me with a summary of who you are and what you do.
All right, yeah. I'm a local business owner here down on South Barstow Street, where my business focuses on CBD and hemp-based products. I work with small family farmers to source all my materials, and I'm a local grower and processor myself, licensed through the state of Wisconsin.
So basically, I own the Core Skateboard Shop. There's places you can buy skateboards and stuff in the area, right? I'm the only skater on one. Anyone who really skates any amount of time, they all come to my shop. Because everyone knows, that's the spot. And that's kind of what this is trying to be, right? This is trying to be, the most knowledgeable. This is the place if you really want to get the good stuff, basically, right?
Yep, yeah, that's my focus, is just providing premium product, again, sourced from farmers that we know, we can trust, and are friends of mine, basically.
Right. So what's the best way for people to follow you, your store, everything that you do, or in general, also if they want to contact you about whatever, how do they get a hold of you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, and then I also have a webpage, wondersofnatureonline.com.
What are the handles for Facebook and everything? Is it just Wonders of Nature?
Wonders of Nature Hemp.
Okay. So the CBD industry in general is really new, right? When did you get introduced to that as far as it being a healing property, something that's going to be legal, something that's an alternative medicine for people?
Yeah, back in 2018 is when in December of 2018 is when it became federally legal through the 2018 Farm Act. And it was around that time or slightly before that we started seeing CBD hit the market in different states. I've always been a cannabis person myself. For 30 years or so, I've been using cannabis products, and I've always kind of seen it as and treated it as a sacred kind of plant. I've always kind of approached plant medicine from an herbalist standpoint, and knowing that plants have healing properties that we can introduce into our day-to-day life. And I started seeing a lot of this product hit in the shelves, but what I was getting feedback from family and friends and such was that they were just having a tough time navigating the market and finding quality product out there. And when I looked at it myself, it just looked like there's just a lot of swag out there. And I'm just this isn't right. This isn't a good representation of what this plant can do. And so I started reaching out to some of my friends I knew were farmers. A lot of them were in the rec business out in Colorado or Oregon, and started looking into the industry some more, of getting some product mainly for family is what it started off with, and then it just kind of exploded from there.
So you were basically just a consumer at first when these goods were coming out, because I've tried using CBD tinctures and stuff, and I can feel it. I see that it can be helpful, but I would agree that you get different answers everywhere that you go, it seems. And that's part of a new industry, right? There hasn't been an industry standard to kind of base everything off of pricing or anything else. And that's kind of where you then come in. But the problem with that is you have to get everyone to trust that you do know, because there's so much different stuff that's out there. So
trust is the biggest component here.
Right.
And most people that are in this industry are just trying to peddle their product, and they always claim that they're the best and to not trust anybody else. I don't claim that what I have is the best. I think it's equal to the superior products that are out there. I always like to say about 80% of what's out there is kind of garbage, and it's just being mass produced, and it's not really transparent where it's coming from. The other 20%, I would say, is doing it good. And within that 20%, you got to kind of find your niche, or what is it within that 20% that you want to support, basically, in that industry.
Yeah, thankfully in Eau Claire, people kind of understand what local business is about. I don't think a lot of communities are quite as forward thinking as us. But people in Eau Claire recognize, right, that if you go to Best Buy, like the people there don't really know so much about the music that's there because they're just hired to do that type of thing, and it's just like a bigger company. But when you go to somewhere like, Revival Records or whatever, like you're going to get a little bit more expert advice, which is cool when you like have a downtown like Eau Claire thing. In general, like small business, it's really cool that way, which I think a lot of people don't realize because they ask me all the time, like, when are you going to expand? When are you going to do whatever? It's like, well, but the really cool part about having a small core shop is you get that experience, but you lose that when all of a sudden you try to open other locations because now you're not the expert anymore.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So I always encourage anybody, if you, whatever specialty thing that you want, like just go to whatever the local core shop is for whatever the industry is, whether it's running or, cannabis or whatever.
Yep.
When did you start using like CBD? Was it exclusively when it became legal? Because you said you've been using cannabis products since way before that.
Yeah.
But like, when did you switch from whatever? Everyone knows a lot of people smoke weed. So from growing up and you smoked weed or whatever, when did all of a sudden you decide like, hey, some of these other like forms of this are really helpful? Or what did you discover that?
Yeah, I started getting the product, like I said, for family members. At that time, I was a medical massage therapist at a PT clinic here. And at the same time, I started using it myself. And specifically, I was using it on my hands as a topical application because my hands hurt a lot as a massage therapist. And within about a week's time, I started noticing benefits that my hands were feeling better. It was actually my wife that brought it to my attention. She's like, "You're not asking me to massage your hands and your forearms every night before bed. They must not be bothering you so much." And I realized that was the thing that was making that change, basically, was using the products.
So opening my store, because I was going to ask you like what makes you an expert, but obviously you like 30 years of this, and in general, you've been in this industry. And when you open a store like this, everyone assumes that you're the expert, which means you kind of have to make yourself one. Otherwise, you're going to look like a fraud. So you like kind of have to do that.
Yep.
So clearly you know a lot about it. But for me, when I opened my skateboard shop, it was really, really straightforward and simple. Not everything is quite as easy as that. I guess I shouldn't say easy, but not everything's quite as simple. So for me, when I opened my shop, there was no other skater-owned skateboard shop that didn't exist in Eau Claire. There were places to buy them, but nobody knew what they were talking about. Nobody was an expert by any means. We finally got like a free public park built in town. Bunch of people are skating it, and like there's no community hub store to go to. So for me, it's like, cool. All I need to do is get a lease. Insurance is just like the regular, any other insurance. I don't make any of the products myself, so that's not an obstacle. I can kind of just use a credit card to buy product, and then sell it for more at MSRP. Like, it's super straightforward. For you, I knew that was like a totally different thing. What were like some of the biggest challenges as far as like legals, or like what were the barriers that were in place, and how did you kind of get past those?
Yeah, like I always say, starting a business is not easy. There's just a big learning curve there. Starting a cannabis business is 100 times harder. There is definitely barriers and obstacles dealing with insurance, dealing with credit card processors, dealing with banking. It's considered kind of a high-risk business right now. So a lot of those infrastructures won't even touch you. So I had to go through a lot of hoops, sign in a lot of paperwork, proving that I had everything in place to reassure the banking industry, the credit card processors, and with insurance, which is a big one, especially since I make my own products. I don't need to, but I make sure I have all the correct insurance in place for liability reasons, and I had to go through the cannabis industry out in Colorado in order to obtain the correct insurance coverage.
For me, when I tell people that I own a skateboard shop, no one seems to like think it's a real thing. Especially like other adults, they're like,
Okay.
like, well, I work for whatever corporate, or I do accounting for this person, I do whatever, because that in somebody's mind is like very real, right? Like if you work for, say, if you work for Wells Fargo or something, right, and you're whatever, people can kind of like figure out, okay, you probably make this amount of money, this puts you at this status level, so in comparison, this is where I am, because people are always comparing each other in America. That's just like how it works in this country. But when you own your own business, and when you own it in something that's like really unique that most people have no idea, they don't know where to place you.
Yeah.
So some people I talk to are like, dang, dude, that's so sick. Like, I wish I was doing something like that. That's super cool. And they like look up pictures of my store right away, and they're like all stoked. And then I tell other people, and they're like, oh, well, like, how long you planning on doing that?
Yeah.
As if it's like a kids thing or something. Do you kind of like have that same conversation with people?
Yeah, sometimes, I mean, people don't take you serious, it seems like, and there's like, they act like it's not a real job, like, oh, you don't have a real job. You don't have that 9 to 5 clocking in, at Menards type thing or something. So yeah, that I definitely get that.
Thankfully, when we work for ourselves, we can do whatever we want, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, like you're here before you open. You can come in, you can make coffee, you can eat whatever, you can play whatever music that just puts you in a great mood. So let's get to our first song break, because this is like one of my favorite parts of the show. And I'll quick tell everybody why this even happened in the first place. I'm an extremely stubborn person, like very stubborn. When I have something that I want to do, which is part of the reason I work myself, even if nobody else has done that or is doing that, I'm going to find a way to do that because that's what I want to do, right?
Yep.
So I'd always listen to this show, which was Thrasher Magazine, everyone knows, right? It's like the skateboard Bible, they call it, or whatever. But it's the main magazine and media source for skateboarding. Well, they were doing a radio show thing for like a while. It was called Thrasher Radio. And they had guests on with the late Jake Phelps, who was the editor of Thrasher for a long time. R.I.P. He's amazing, such a cool dude. But he would interview people and they'd talk about all the skateboarding stuff. But then they would have them pick songs to play. And I've really gotten more into music. I'm not a musician, but I've really gotten more into music over recent years. And to me, you can really connect with people through their music. Like, I feel like you learn a lot about who somebody is based on the type of music that they listen to. And I love like discovering new music anyways. So for my show, I had the idea like, okay, I want to have, roughly 10 to 20 minutes of talking and then a song from the guest. So that way people can like connect with that person, discover new stuff. And I wanted to do it that way. Well, then when I started looking into it, I'm like, well, I can't do that. I don't have, there's no way. It'll just be taken down by Apple or everybody else. There's no possible way. Like, if somebody picks a Beastie Boys song, I'm not going to have rights to that for a podcast, right? But I was like, no, I want to do this. How do I do this? There's got to be a way to do this. So I'm one of those people that, because I'm a townie, I know a lot of people in Eau Claire. So when I have something I need to get done, I just put feelers out everywhere. And I'm like, nobody needs to do me a favor, but if anyone knows somebody that fits what I'm trying to do, put me in contact. Yeah. So I did that, and somebody was like, dude, you just put it on the radio. And I was like, I could put it on the radio. Sick. So this was all before the first episode even came out that I kind of like lined all this stuff up. So I hit up Converge, and they're the ones who kind of do all the local radio stuff. They're the only ones I think that play any kind of local music and stuff. So I hit them up, and they're like, yeah, that's a great idea. So when this is on the radio, which is every Wednesday at 7 p.m., we're going to have song choices. When you listen to it on Spotify and Apple, you don't get that, so you can stream that later. But that's one of the reasons you got to listen to it on the radio. Okay, so my typical day is like the best thing ever these days, right? Because I put myself in that position, which I like. Everyone always says you're so lucky, and yeah, I mean, of course, certain things line up, right? Like a lot of things kind of had to line up for things to work out the way that it did, but that's like in every situation, right? But for the most part, I laid the groundwork for what I want to do. I wake up, I go for my run. Usually then make my pot of coffee and I sit in my hot tub with my kids and just like chill and listen to music. And I don't go to work till noon. And then when I do go to work, like I'm hanging out at a skateboard shop all day. I mean, that makes it sound like nothing. I work all the time. I'm always doing stuff on my phone, not scrolling Instagram aimlessly, actually working, I do a lot of different things. But what does your day look like nowadays?
Right now it's quite busy with just being a startup. I'm usually up pretty early and getting my coffee going right away. Usually have some music going to get me kind of in the mood for the day, get me stimulated. And
so which coffee, right? Just to interview that we had Soul Brewed, right? That's that's your go-to.
Yep.
So Soul Brewed coffee, you guys rule. Thank you for being on the show. Quick plug on them. Waking up, what's the song that you play right away? What do you have like a Spotify playlist you play?
Early morning, a lot of times it's reggae, Bob Marley, such, just get me in the right mood.
Uplifting.
Yep,
sure.
For sure. Not some heavy metal early in the morning, but it changes throughout the day. But not a whole lot of self-care. It seems like no running or hot tubbing for me. It's kind of a 6 a.m. till 6, 7 o'clock at night. I seem to be going and doing. I haven't gotten the business to the point yet where I can just kind of sit back and kind of let it go. I'm still developing and trying to get established. So that's the goal at some point, is to be able to kick back a little bit more and watch it kind of do its thing.
Yeah, I mean, things get easier over time, like all the time. This is like a dumb analogy that you have to like play Call of Duty to understand, but everybody played Call of Duty, it seems, from my general age group at some point in time. Well, in that game, in a lot of games, when you play, you don't have any upgrades or anything, so you're just like bad at it. Right.
Yep.
But then as you play more, like all your stuff gets upgraded. So not only are you better skill wise, but you have better tools available to you. It's weirdly a good analogy for how like owning a small business goes, because every time a dumb little problem comes up, the first time you like take care of a problem, first time it pops into your in front of your face, it's so much harder to navigate through. And then once you've seen it before, you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't stress you out, right? Because it's come up before. You're like, no big deal. I can handle this thing. Whatever. Some customer called about whatever, or my insurance didn't whatever, or my credit card didn't get re-upped on my Excel energy bill, or whatever the dumb thing is. Doesn't really matter. But over time, everything gets easier and less stressful because you're kind of used to the flow of it. And more people know about you. So sales just kind of come in anyways. This is all, of course, assuming you're doing things right.
Yeah.
But assuming you do things right, your reputation just kind of grows in a good way. You make connections with other business owners and other people that are mutually beneficial to you, and everything slowly gets easier. And again, that's me sounding really cocky of like sitting around not doing shit. I do stuff constantly. If you know me, I'm like always out on the hustle. I'm always grinding on some kind of thing. But it's the beautiful part is I get to spend my time grinding, doing things that I want to do.
For sure.
You know, not filling it with stuff I don't want to do. I'm always like designing new, like whatever little creatures and stuff that I put on products or something, or, you know, DMing and talking with people on Instagram about like, how do I get this sponsorship with the show? Or like, how am I going to line up a trip to go interview this person or that type of thing? What is currently your favorite part of the day?
You know, I really just like interacting with customers. I'm a people person. So, I really approach this as a therapist still. After all the years of being a massage therapist, I really I really enjoy just helping people. So when I have a customer come in, a client come in, and maybe has never experienced cannabis before, this type of product before, and I'm able to make them feel comfortable with their purchase, that's pretty awesome, you know. And I'm doing it, like you said, in my space, you know, listening to my music, and that's the reward in this. It's not about the money for me. I often say that I'm not really a money person. I don't even know how much money I have in my bank account right now. I just focus on providing good service and good product, and just kind of let the money take care of itself.
Doesn't it trip you out that you like basically hang out in like a bedroom of yours, like a really cool one, I know. But it's just like, I just like made this sweet living room or whatever at, you know, my second space, and I'm just kicking it where like, even if no customers were here, I would probably like kicking it here anyways.
Yeah. If I'm going to hang out for 10 hours, you know, a day somewhere, you know, I might as well be someplace that I like, you know? So yeah, this is my, you know, this is my place, you know, and hopefully you like my style and such, and you'll come and hang out and visit. But yeah, I'm doing this for me more than anybody else.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the beautiful part about like small business is people, most of the time anyways, is the small business owner's there. Like that's their personal vision, you know? And I always try to tell other people when I give them advice, not that anyone cares about my advice because it's not worth anything anyways, but I always try to tell people like your persona and who you are, that's what the business is you. Like the products and stuff, yeah, but they're kind of secondary. I give this advice to people in general when I talk about like sales and stuff. When you are in sales, like they teach you how to do icebreakers and they teach you how to close people and like all this stuff. Cause I was in sales since I was super young. So like I understand how all that stuff works for sure. But I think when you become a better salesperson and you like get a better grasp of how this stuff works, I think you evolve to the kind of the next level of sales. And the next level is selling yourself as the solution to people's needs. Yeah. And the beautiful part about that is you no longer have to pressure literally anything at all. Mm-hmm. It's just to like, look, when you need something, hit me up. Because I'm not concerned about whether you buy something today. That's really irrelevant. Yep. You know, I just want this to be where you come in the future. And if you do that right for a long period of time, people see it. Yep. Because you stand out like that, and then everyone wants to support you anyway. Yeah, and when it's something that you're passionate about, like I am here and like you are with skating, you know, you can just be true, you can just be yourself, and that comes off, you know, and people get it. And then every once in a while, you know, you really run across that kindred spirit, you know, somebody that just, you know, kind of, they get what you're putting down and they just kind of give you that little nod, you know. So even like with the Grateful Dead theme throughout my shop, you know, it's very subtle.
And, people that get it and have that little wink, that's cool.
Oh, absolutely. I had a crew of like 5 skaters drive down from Hayward yesterday. I've skated that park a bunch of times when I was a kid. So it was cool because they came down and they had their like camera. They were like filming a bunch of street skating, but in general, they were like, they just had to come to the local skate shop and check it out. And I know like that's how I feel, especially when I was younger, but nowadays too, every time I travel, whatever the local skate shop is in that city, like I'm trying to go there. I went to Seattle for the first time recently, and you're damn right. I was like, okay, which is the main shop here? Oh, 35th North. And there's other ones. So like, sorry, Black Market, that I can get you if you hear this, but 35th North is like the most, whatever, has the most notoriety anyways, is like the core shop there. I walked like 3 miles to get to that place just to say what's up, because of course I want to be there. You know what I mean? Okay, so just because there's a lot of things people don't know, right? A lot of people come into my shop, and it's not just about like how skateboards are made. Like I'm a huge nerd, and any dumb little technical thing, I'll throw this out there right now. Anyone that wants to put money down and do skate trivia with me, I know more than you do. It's stupid. I've been reading like every Thrasher mag since I was in high school and been doing this thing for way too long. I don't know why I still care to keep up with everything that happens, but I do. I know way too much about it. What is something about this industry in particular that would surprise most people?
I don't know how surprising, man. Just the misrepresentation, again, in this industry, I think is a big one. A lot of people think that it's all just kind of the same product. When you hear CBD oil, people think that all CBD oil is kind of the same, basically. And if the price is higher, then it must be better. And that's definitely not true. CBD is a very broad term that covers a lot of different products out there that just contain cannabidiol, which is CBD. So, there's a lot of different varieties, a lot of different quality of product out there, a lot of different sourcing. Not all the product is created the same. So I think that catches a lot of people off guard. They don't understand. They're like, I used some product at one of the other local stores and I felt something, but it really didn't do a whole lot for me. But when I use yours, like there's a big difference. Not only am I feeling that same sensation, but it's bigger, it's better, and I'm also getting additional benefits that weren't there before. And that's just because they're using a fuller product, basically, with a larger spectrum of benefits.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just, I don't know, and however you feel politically, whatever, I don't care. But a lot of people have a different vision in their mind that CBD are just a bunch of potheads. And like, that's what it is. That's what they think it is.
Or it's like non-alcoholic beer,
right?
In the cannabis world.
Right. It's like, well, no, it's one thing I've noticed anyways, when I have come to places like this, because I've been to a couple anyways, is no, these people are talking about healing. This is all about like health. How do we take care of our health? Whether it's something that just like helps you with anxiety and mellows you out, or if it helps with, I've talked to people who like, they can't sleep without using this stuff, or people who have like panic attacks and stuff, or people who have, epilepsy. Like there's all kinds of different things that this stuff can help with. But I think a lot of people, for whatever reason, keep dismissing it as not being like a medicine, and that when they go into something like this, there's just going to be a bunch of pipes laying around, and that's like all whatever. I'm here to smoke weed. Like that's not really the case. Obviously, like you're going to have all kinds of different shops and different things. But I really hope that as things continue to progress, that more people are open to understanding, hey, if I'm on a medication in general, right, especially for mental health or something, I should probably be considering what other options are available to me and be willing to try some other things. I think in our country especially, people are so fast to just like swallow whatever pill their doctor gives them, and there's all kinds of side effects, man. I was on a antidepressant for a long time that affected my sexual health that I didn't even realize it really did. And then it came up and I was like, what in the world is wrong with me? And I figured out, oh, it's this medication. And I got off that medication. I was like, okay, well, that's not a problem for me now. What in the world? Why wasn't he even aware of this, that this was going to be a problem? People, I think, need to be aware that you don't have to do exactly what your doctor says, right? Yeah. Because there's money involved there too. There's always going to be money involved. So try to like check out the different experts from different industries. There's probably other options. Not only that, but dude, again, self-care, you could probably just like release some endorphins like running in the morning, and you'd probably feel a little bit better about yourself too. Yep. So here's something about me that would surprise most people. I've have this just love for just such pretty voices that I can't help but listen to like what I imagine is really pretty women singing acoustically. Like I love listening to that type of stuff. One of my favorites, like classic, like Lily Allen type person, where like I don't know that I love her music, but for some reason I love listening to her voice. Another band that I really like that I wish was still a thing was called Wild Child. I can't remember what her name is, but I love listening to like all their like more mellow stuff. And like me being like heavily tattooed and whatever, the way that I look, I doubt people think that I'm like stoked to drink tea and listen to that stuff. But I'm like, I love that stuff. But so yeah, Wild Child, if you ever listen to that band, love that band. The woman who sings in that, because it was like a duo thing, is now doing her own thing called Serve Woman Music that I don't think anyone really knows about at this point. So if I can get her on the show, that would be killer because I love listening to her sing. Anyways, what's something that people aren't aware of with you?
Oh, definitely. Especially a lot of people in this area. I moved up here once I got married and got serious in life and such. But there was definitely a time in my life where I was a lot more free spirited than even the 45-year-old owner of a cannabis shop, and spent some summers hitchhiking across the country and doing lots of backpacking, doing different festivals, rainbow gatherings and such like that, so had my time on the road, finding myself and, experiencing life and such. So a lot of times when I tell people that, there's like, you hitchhiked, and it's like, yeah, I've gone from Oregon to the Midwest in particular, back and forth and such, and throughout Colorado and the deserts and such. So yeah, I don't know how much of that's still going on out there, but this was in, like the late 90s and early 2000.
Yeah, I think one thing that's cool is growing up, everyone tells you just have to go to college, which I'm not dismissing college education because that's obviously helpful. It's just expensive too. But I think being comfortable and learning about yourself, what your skill sets are, what you want, that's much more important than knowing how to do one particular task that you're taught, right? Yeah. So I think people who take a year off and travel or studying abroad, I think is a big one. But taking yourself out of the normal comfort zone of what you know, you learn so much and you don't even have to spend money doing it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I think those are like huge, huge opportunities for growth and put you in a better position to make decisions for yourself moving forward.
Yeah, definitely learned a lot during those experiences and learned a lot about people and just the beauty of the country that we live in.
Yeah, tell me about it. I've been taking road trips this year for the first year. I never camped before this year, and then all of a sudden, like I've been camping. I went to Colorado, I went out to Ohio, and kind of like all over the place in between. So there's a lot of growth and change with businesses and entrepreneurs in particular, right? Like I was talking about. In the first year, I was open 10 hours a day, 7 days a week for the first I don't know how many months. I was there all the time. But when you put up your business plan, if somebody's like, okay, you need to apply for a loan or something. I don't use loans, but if you need to apply for a loan from a bank, you got to put a business plan together, right? And you got to put your list of objectives. Like, I'm going to do this. This is where I'm going to fit within the industry. This is how I fit in Eau Claire and whatever. You're not going to hit it 100%. If you actually do, you're such an outlier, right? You open and you realize, I thought this was going to do really well, but instead I'm getting demand from my clients for this or whatever. How is what you're doing now different / like how has it kind of changed from what your original vision was?
Yeah, I just kind of, this has grown in directions I would have never thought. Like I said, I first just got into it just trying to get product for friends and family. And then pretty soon word got out and I was delivering it to different people around town. And pretty soon I was like, I'm tired of driving around everywhere. People need to come to me. So I picked the parking lot down here in downtown at the end of Gray Street for everybody to just meet me there. And one night there was like 6-7 cars deep of people waiting for me, and I'm handing bottles and they're handing me cash. And I'm just like, I need a place of my own. And that's what started me thinking that I needed to open up a place, basically. And I did some pop-in shops. And I've just kind of gone with it, and it's just kind of grown into something that I had no idea I was going to own a place like this. You know, when cannabis started getting legalized, in other states, it's like, oh, that'd be amazing, to own a dispensary and such. But that's not something I'll ever reach. And I would at first I would talk to my wife about it, and I'm like, this is like beyond my control almost. Like, I'm going in the direction that I want, but there's like this force behind me, like that something just has to manifest, and it's doing it through me. And at times it was almost like a runaway train where like, if I would have just like let it go, I would have gone off the tracks at some point, and been chasing down the wrong path. So I always feel like I'm like this conductor, almost putting on the brakes because I see all this, steep grade, sharp turns up ahead with owning a business and such. So I've been just trying to keep it on the tracks the whole time, but it definitely continues to grow. Opportunities arise that it's like, okay, this is meant to be. I got to just keep going, and I'm not maybe 100% ready for it, but you're never ready for some of those big things in life. You just got to go for it. So when I moved downtown here, that was a big one to say, okay, I'm leaving my 9 to 5 100% now. This is going to be it. And how do I make a go at it? So, and now we're opening, going from a dispensary only. Now we're opening the cafe portion, which was put on hold due to COVID. Should have been opened. It was going to have a big grand opening for 420, have a big event down here, but had to put that on hold. But now it's like just kind of with the business plan, you can't just stop as a new business. You got to constantly keep moving forward, and otherwise it just feels like it might fizzle out or something. So this is the next endeavor, but it's like starting up a whole second business now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've said this a lot of times on the show and to people in general. One of the things that makes anybody good at business is recognizing the right opportunities. Because if you're good at what you do and you do the right things by people, opportunities come up constantly. Everyone's always hitting you up like, hey, we should do this. We should partner on this or whatever. And I always appreciate anybody that keeps me in mind. But you can't say yes to everything because they're not all the right ones.
Yeah.
The important part is to go all in on the right ones. And yeah, sometimes the timing isn't perfect, but the opportunity is just like too good to pass up. In general, I like to look at like where my goal is, right? If I'm looking at something, we're sitting downtown Eau Claire. If I'm looking at how do I get to the high school I graduated from, North High School 2008. What's up, guys? So if I'm trying to get there, I can't go straight. There's buildings in my way, right? Like I have to go up this street. I have to go up that street. Or all of a sudden, like there's something in the way. Now I got to go totally around. The point is to continually be making progress to that. And I forget where I heard this analogy, but this popped up the other day where someone was talking about how, it was in a book that I was listening to, surprisingly. Look at me reading, not really. It was Audible. But sometimes progress doesn't have to be forward. Sometimes it's lateral. The important part is to keep the momentum flowing. When all of a sudden you hit a wall and there's no possible way to get around it, you're not making progress if you just stop there, right? But if you go to the right or to the left, you're getting closer to the corner of that building to be able to go around. And that's that progress that you need. So when things like COVID or anything else pop up, like you can't look at it as like, well, this is going to stop me. You just have to look at, okay, well, what's the next step for me to continue to get to where my goal is? And if you're going to work for yourself, you like have to like unabashedly just believe this is going to work.
Yeah.
Like, because things are going to tell you all the time, like, that might not work. But no, like you got to just believe it and figure out that this is what I want to do. Yep. I can't just ask somebody else to do it for me. I can't give up on this plan because I'm all in. Like you just have to find a way to make it work.
That's what I was going to say is you can't rely upon, somebody else to do it for you. You gotta be a hustler, when you're an entrepreneur. And during COVID, I found myself back to hustling. I was, at times backpack on my back and on my skateboard, doing deliveries, local deliveries or, doing curbside pickup, and definitely felt old school.
Yeah. I was delivering skateboards to the skate park like pizzas at one point. That was nuts. So the biggest asset that anybody has is their time. It blows my mind that people are willing to just give their time to anybody for like kind of hardly any money. That whole thing of like you're at a store and you're like, well, man, I feel like at Target this might be $3 less. I guess I'll drive over there. I'm like, dude, you want to give 30 minutes of your time for $3?
Yeah.
Wild. I would never do that. Time is my most valuable resource. I never have enough time, especially when you own a business, because there's always a million things you want to get to that you're not going to get to. Like I had a boss a long time ago who I just differed in opinion with, and I still think she's wrong. But she told me for a long time, she's like, if you're going to do something, you need to do it 100%. And this was in a retail environment. So she's like, if you're going to do this project, it has to be at 100%. Otherwise, why even do it? And I'm like, no, that's stupid. No, you do 90%. You do what you can in the time time frame that you have. If you can do 90% of something in 5 minutes, but it's going to take you 10 extra minutes to hit that 100%, and now you spent 15, dude, I got time for that.
Yeah.
I got to do 90% of a different project I'm trying to do and 90% of this project. Like, you're always kind of balancing. You never have enough time to do what you want to do. You clearly don't have enough time to do everything you want to do with this place because you're still growing. You're just like barely hitting year one.
Yeah.
What are some things that you haven't had time to do yet that you would really like to do with this business?
Oh, jeez. Yeah, there's every day I have a to-do list basically. There's just different stages of growth. Here recently, it was just getting this cafe off the ground. But as a producer of the products, processor of what I'm making and such, coming up with new products. I have a lot of ideas there that I want to venture into. So that definitely keeps me moving is with products, packaging, marketing ideas. And this business is a cultivation of a variety of things I'm passionate about and like to incorporate in my life. One of the other things that I was, let's say, a hobby of mine for many years is mycology and growing mushrooms. And I would like to incorporate mushroom medicine at some point into my practice here, and even potentially doing some grow kits that I could take down like to the farmer's market when I go down there to do the farmer's market, to have like these pre-inoculated kits that I could sell to people to take home. And then also offer products here to sell to maybe local restaurants, gourmet mushrooms and stuff like that. So that would be a third business at that point, it seems like. So that might be a little bit more. But as I grow and potentially get that opportunity, that's something I would like to do more of.
That's awesome. I would love to see that. I mean, and again, as like things kind of change politically and stuff, like things are going more progressive eventually, I think.
Yeah.
Maybe not, but I think so.
Well, they are.
As they get more progressive, more opportunities are going to like pop up. People are going to have more open minds, not necessarily has that been lately, but in general, that's kind of where things are going.
Yeah, we saw it with this last election.
Yeah, tell me about it, Jesus. But realistically though, okay, where realistically do you see the industry going, and how do you see yourself fitting into that puzzle? My industry is not changing. It's exclusively just growing. More people want to skate, and the Olympics that should have happened this year was going to blow it up in pop culture. So my business isn't really going to change a whole lot, I don't think. Yours, the industry is like drastically changing based on like legal things. How are you
correct.
fitting into that puzzle?
Yeah, when I first started, a lot of people asked me that if I would venture into the marijuana side of the business once we legalized, and that wasn't my focus. I'm about the CBD at this point obviously is legal, but having full access to the cannabis plant would be ideal. So part of my business plan, yes, is to establish myself as a reputable existing cannabis business here in Eau Claire, so that when that day comes and there's those limited amount of licenses that potentially will be available, that I'll be at the top of that short list. So I have a lot of infrastructure in place as far as, product development, packaging, like I said, insurance, already in that industry and such. And then also my farmer connections, who a lot of them are in the rec and market already out in Oregon and Colorado and stuff. So I think it would be a fairly smooth transition at this point. When that day comes, it'll be a big ticket item for sure to get one of those licenses. And I'm up against some powerful people here in town that are also, I think, trying to move in that direction when that day comes. But from day one, I met with the police department here and the special unit detectives and showed them my packaging, and that all has tamper evident seals on it and everything, trying to represent this industry correctly and not to create any issues with like the police department and such, and just trying to get that line of communication open, that I'm trying to do this right and that I'm a reputable business. So I've also been in touch with some of the city officials too, because they are proactively looking at municipality ordinances or laws of when that day comes, because they know it's inevitable at some point. So they've reached out to me also.
Yeah, I've talked to a lot of the city council members about skate park stuff and different things, and I'm not going to say that I 100% agree with or get along with everybody, but I respect them. Because I've had people like talk to me before, other council members, and they're like, "Man, you ever think about like running for something like this?" And I'm like, dude, you guys get paid nothing. I was like, I know it's not about the money, but my time is already like, I don't have the time to do the things I want to do. You guys are saints for giving this much of your time to something that you get paid hardly anything for.
Yeah.
And you get so much like, beat back from people and like that. So much respect to city council members. Please listen to what I say, maybe a tad bit more. Like, let's work together on some but I really appreciate what you guys do. And I think there's a lot of members on our city council that are very progressive, and they recognize like things are not going to stay the same.
Yeah.
And how do we stay on top of things to make sure things grow in the right direction?
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's important though to be a part of our community. As a business owner, we're invested in this community. It's not just about, owning this business and making money, but it's supporting our economy here and doing what's right. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, in general, like downtown Eau Claire, this is what I've like hammered into people's minds when things like went south with quarantine. I totally get it, and I agree with quarantine. We got to get rid of this virus or at least slow it down. So don't get me wrong on that. But like cities thrive, and in particular Eau Claire. If you remember, I'm sure you remember because you're older than me by at least a little bit, probably not a crazy amount, but downtown Eau Claire sucked before. Like half of it was empty. It just wasn't anything. And because of that, there was no community events. Like nothing really existed. And then when all of a sudden downtown blew up over the last decade plus, we have stuff going on every day.
Yeah.
And how all of these really cool events happen. If you look up like volume 1 list of events, there's every day.
Yeah.
How that stuff happens is because of all of us downtown business owners recognizing we're part of this community. We all have to give back and we want to build something really cool.
Yeah.
So almost everybody down here donates to stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool because like if you look at the list of donors for every random event, it's like all the same 30 people or whatever. Like all of us are always doing that type of stuff. We're the reason that things are constantly happening. And we have to take that upon ourselves to recognize that's part of our role too. Like if people are going to give us money and trust us to be a part of this, we should give back and make sure that we're like a part of that whole thing too. So where immediately, like people are going to be following you now because now that they've listened to you talk, they're like, this dude's way cooler than the host of this show. I'm going to pay attention to him. So don't start a podcast because I want people listening to this one. What is like the immediate thing though? Like what's the next step? What are the things people can expect to see from you in the coming months?
Main focus right now is getting this cafe, running smooth, it seems like, and just building upon the dispensary side of things and bringing in some new products since it's harvest season and such. So I was a grower this year, so I'll have some of my own products hitting the shelves. Kind of touching on the kind of more of a personal side, touching on what we just talked about, is getting more engaged with the community and being a part of like the downtown bid board. Looking at getting involved with that, getting more involved with the neighborhood steering committee that I'm sitting on. So just kind of growing personally and taking the opportunity and taking advantage of the position that I'm in right now as I don't want to say a public figure, but
you are in downtown.
Using my platform here. I would like to start the conversation more on legalization. I know the Wisconsin people are in favor of it, and we have a few politicians standing in the way, and our city council, has passed some good ordinances here in favor of that. But we're seeing things happening in like Madison with some of their ordinances starting to lift. If we're not going to get abroad, I'd like to do it more on the municipal lines. And then also we're seeing, back to the mycology side, we're seeing certain cities starting to decriminalize nature, decriminalizing different substances, and maybe start moving in that direction, using my voice in that way. My wife works for a nonprofit here in town that does a lot of advocacy work, and she's always telling me I need to be down in Madison. And, there's lawyers down there, and there's the politicians, fighting that battle down there. My job is to kind of work Main Street of Eau Claire to break the stigma of cannabis. It's kind of cheesy, but I like to think of hemp as being an acronym for Help Eliminate Marijuana Prohibition. I'm doing my job here. I'm getting mom and dad and grandma and grandpa to come in and to actually put, this plant into their system so that they can feel how they resonate with it and the benefits that it is for them. And it's changing a lot of people's minds, and it's turning a lot of people on to the benefits that we have here. So hopefully someday soon we can move in that direction of legalization.
Yeah, it's weird. Like when I was a kid, I would have never thought people were going to kind of think me as like the skateboard guy, because I'm definitely not the best skateboarder in Eau Claire. Like I don't suck, but like I'm definitely not the best. You know what I mean? But it's funny. You have to recognize that when you're in a position that you're in, same way with me, that people who don't know about the industry, yeah, maybe a lot of the skateboarders in Eau Claire are like, whatever, dude, I could be Chris in the game of skate. And I'm like, yeah, you probably can, man. Sick. But the other people, which are such a larger number, because you're the one in the public eye, you're the one who has the biggest voice. And you kind of have to accept that responsibility, right? Like but it's important when you do recognize that you have that power to then take those actions. That's again part of being a local business owner. Like those are the responsibilities that come with that. Maybe, you don't think are going to be on your plate when you open, or it's not something you consider. And then all of a sudden you're in that position and you're like, no, it's like kind of my responsibility to do this.
Representative kind of.
Absolutely. So getting near the end of the show, I always like to have story time with people. I like to have somebody share, a cool story. So I'll share one just to like give the example to you. But because when we do what we do, we have all these really unique experiences, because we don't just go see our task that comes through our email list and be like, okay, I need to figure out how productivity can be increased, or whatever thing that somebody else is doing. For us, we get to have lots of really cool ones. For me, this just happened 2 days ago. But I'm like really passionate about the show. Like this is really important to me, how, this is growing, what this message is that I feel like I'm spreading to people. And I'm excited because I know like eventually as this grows, I know I'm going to see people opening up cool little businesses or like take their passions more seriously. And I'm going to get a random message from somebody being like, dude, I listened to that episode. Things have been going so good since. Like I'm waiting for that day. So if somebody has been listening to this and things are going way better, hit me up, man. Like I want just... let me know that it's helped you. But anyways, the show's finally grown enough that like I can hit up people that I don't know, right? The first season, it was like pretty much all people I knew pretty well personally. Well, it's finally gotten now to the like enough of a following where I can kind of just hit people up, and not like crazy huge, but I just interviewed this rapper 2 days ago that like I've been just listening to his music for a while. And for whatever reason, this I think was when I was like driving out to Washington or something. I'm always kind of like searching around through Instagram of like, who should I interview? Who could I hit up? And I'm always putting feelers out. Well, for whatever reason it popped up. I think he like was on my playlist and played. And I was like, how big is his following? So I like went to his Instagram page and I was like, okay, 12,000. Like that's not like crazy, right? He'd probably see my DM. So the rapper's name is Cashanova. Go check him out. He's sick. I don't know if his episode is going to come out before this or not. So it doesn't matter. But I looked him up and I was like, I'll just send him a DM, whatever. Maybe. Send him one. Dude, yeah, a couple days later, I'm having coffee in Seattle and I get a response from him. He's like, yeah, dude, I'm down. Here's my cell number. Hit me up. And I was like, what? Sick. Like, I'm a fan of your music. That's tight. All right, I got to not fangirl out when I meet you because, like, I'm just, like, stoked. You know what I mean? Like, if I was at his show and I, like, saw him, I'd be like, yeah, I'll buy you a beer. What's up, man? Yeah. You know what I mean? But yeah, I hit him up. And obviously, of course, he's totally a normal dude. And we sat down and I interviewed him 2 days ago and, like, kicked it. It was super sick. And I'm like, nice. I get to hang out with people that, like, I'm just a fan of now, but, like, on a peer kind of level. Hell yeah, that was cool. And I spent money to do that. I didn't make money on that. Maybe it makes me money down the road, but I spent money to try to do that episode and it was super sick. And I'm really thankful that happened. What's a story that you have to share because of what you do that happened to you that doesn't have to be money related, but you're like really stoked about?
Yeah, I mean, daily it seems like I just get opportunities, to see the difference I'm making. So that's always pretty awesome. It's those moments though where you just really feel like you're on the right path. That's just always really nice. And those, like, what some people would call coincidences, there was, I don't know, to pull one out. There's one in particular. I thought it was just really unique and fun, where I was down at the Eau Claire farmers market, at the artist market last year, doing my thing, selling there. And this lady comes jogging by, and I kind of threw my little, hey, how's it going? Start that sales pitch, kind of, are you interested in CBD products? And she stopped, and she was from Australia, and she was out traveling the world, basically. And she worked for a global magazine called Hemp Today, and was doing articles on how hemp was creating opportunities for businesses and farmers and such like that, and she just happened to be passing through Eau Claire and wasn't sure where her next article was going to come from. And all of a sudden we just connected right there. So that was a great opportunity and something that came about because of this. But one of the more magical moments, is just something I didn't share with anybody else, but just being out in my field and working the plants, especially during harvest time, early morning, harvesting plants, all nice and sticky and smelly, watching the sunrise. And at that time it was hazy because of all the fires going out west, and a lot of those fires, some of my farmers out there were personally battling them, on their front line and such. But that moment was, is pretty sweet, my memory.
That's awesome. All right. So just because you've learned a few things that hopefully can help somebody else, I've given a bunch of random little life lessons. What's a lesson you learned during this time frame that you think could be helpful to somebody else?
Kind of to take from, I guess kind of the emphasis of this podcast and such is to kind of, follow your dreams, to take kind of from I remember Tenacious D. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard some of his live stuff where he would talk about just take that moment, just take 1 year of your life and just give it your all. Don't just conform and say, I have to work my 9-to-5 job. I left 12 years at Menards Management, and it went to becoming a massage therapist, following my heart there, just because I felt that corporate life was just tearing me apart and just making me feel thin. And that life was, 10 years just flashed by, like nothing. And, got into massage, and then massage led into this, and who knows what the next thing will lead into. But it seems like when you're following, when you're following your purpose, it seems like, and maybe 9-to-5 is for some people, maybe your purpose is just putting food on the table because you got kids, and that's what makes you happy. But, when you're on the right path, it seems like things are clicking and life's good, and to kind of listen to that inner voice, that instinct, that gut feeling.
Yeah, you're not going to regret it. Even if things fail, you're not going to regret spending your time doing that.
Yeah, you can go back to your 9-to-5.
Absolutely.
Just don't burn any bridges the way I see it.
Yeah, for sure. So do you have any last words before we hit the outro song? Any shout outs you want to give?
I just want to thank all my farmers, that's where it all starts from. I work with multiple farmers out in Western Colorado, CBDX Farms, Rockin' Roots Farms, Om Shanti out in Oregon, East Fork Cultivars out in Oregon, and all my local growers that I work with. So appreciate those folks out there. They're the ones that are making it happen. And thanks to all my visitors, all my clients, all my customers that come in and visit the store and try my products.
For sure. I'm going to quick shout out, visit Eau Claire and Converge. Both of you guys the continuous support that people hit me up and say, man, I really appreciate you doing this. How can I help you make this happen? I appreciate you guys. All the people that listen, obviously if you do the subscribe, bro type thing, that's always helpful. Sharing it to people is always helpful. Follow both of us over on Instagram. That's the main platform I use for the show. It's at passion_pod. And you can go to passionboardshop.com and listen to any of the episodes as well as shop merchandise. That's the best way. Money speaks, right? It sucks to say that, but that's how you vote, right? Vote with your dollar. If you spend money, those things are going to exist. Come to my shop, support my show, and we can keep making cool things.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of The Passion Pod. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. We'll see you soon.